going on, and they then go off, they move to the site of the fire is, and that's another bit of time, and they then assess it and get back to the commander. The control then communicates privately with a member of staff in the field to evacuate an area and then commence the general evacuation. So this is obviously more complicated than the previous one and has more room for delays. But we should know this in advance because this will be part of the procedure that's in place in that structure. There are legitimate reasons why you want people to do this. You don't want false alarms, you don't want costly disruption where it's not necessary, and so on. But irrespective of whether it's legitimate or not, there are definitely more delays, more scope for delay in this than the previous government. So I'm just highlighting there the number of actions and the number of communication processes that are involved. Now, and this is a very rough estimate here, if we use the data that was collected in the Ulster exercises, where they found that it took approximately up to 0 to 60 seconds for a member of staff to respond, on average 18 seconds. So I'm assuming 30 seconds, just as a broad guide. I'm not suggesting this is the one that's actually used, but let's assume that. And if we put this into our two scenarios, in the first scenario, there was no decision making from members of staff. So given that the sensor goes off and the alarm is enacted, we can then commence our normal, if you like, traditional egress powers straight away. However, in the second scenario, 120 seconds elapses. There's 4 decision-making processes, even before we can start the general alarm process. And then on top of this, we've got all of the actions that need to be simulated for the staff response. To conclude, there are a range of different procedures employed, and oftentimes a managed response is useful and essential. However, there is the potential for a pre-warning delay, a delay in the time in which a general alarm is acted upon. Now, and this needs to be accounted for in the performance-based design of the RSET calculation, and to produce a more reasonable estimate of the time it takes from the point of ignition for the population to reach a point of safety. And we can do this by accounting for the staff decision-making process and then the movement that the staff are involved in to accommodate the procedure that's in place. Now, obviously, this needs to be refined and data needs to be collected in order to support this and improve our understanding of the impact of errors on this procedure. But what I've talked about here could be an initial start basis to accounting for this in the performance-based design process. Thank you.
Very interesting presentation. My question is about modeling, because what you were saying is what I've seen so far, that during this modeling, integration modeling, what you do not see, you are not taking account stuff. But now I see some models that is trying to introduce also stuff. Because, for example, in the last beta version of Pathfinder, we had this staff agent that will try to rescue people or get this activated. So, how do you think we can design pushing models for taking account this?
Well, yeah, I think, see, some of the simulation tools that are available enable some decision making. But as part of the engineering process, we tend not to have decision making in the staff response. We look at from the point at which the alarm sounds and then the general population start evacuating. Now, you could potentially have another piece of pre-analysis to say when does that alarm sound? Or you could just, as I've suggested here, come up with some broad guidelines. But at the moment, either it's completely ignored, or they default to the manufacturer's guidelines and said, look, if the if the sensor signal goes off, we guarantee that the alarm will be sounded, the general alarm will be sounded, unless it's overridden, unless a member of staff interacts with it. Well, they do interact with it, because oftentimes the procedure in the house is we need to check it out first. So we just need to take into account the fact that there may be a procedure in place that's well known, that's documented during the design process, that will absolutely delay the sounding of the general alarm. way that we try and account for behaviour in the general